Hello and welcome to another Design Clips with W+9. This is Dawn Wolfslegel and today I have a fun watercolor stamping technique. I know, surprise, shocker. I have shared this before, however today we are going to be adding our own hand doodling to it. This is just another way to stretch those stamps and really make them your own because you'll never do it the same way twice. Now this technique works best with solid stamps, so we will be using the Whole Lotta Happy stamp set. We're going to be using the solid balloons here, and I'm only going to be using the round balloon today, but it'll work with any of them. We're using our Distress inks and some Tim Holtz watercolor paper, along with a number 4 Ranger round brush. But any size brush will do. I like the number 4 because it doesn't hold quite as much water, and I don't want too much water here. I want to retain the shape that the stamp makes for me. I'm going for loose, but not too loose. So I'm going to take my Distress ink, and instead of applying color to the entire thing, what I'm doing is I'm hitting around the edges of the stamp. And then I'm going to use that damp brush to spread the ink across the surface of the stamp. I've noticed sometimes, especially with the brighter or more vibrant Distress inks, if there is too much ink pressed directly onto the paper, it kind of stains it, and then it's hard to get that ink to move around on the surface of the paper. So by doing it this way, I have a little more control over how the image stamps. There's not so much water that the image is going to be distorted. It's going to keep its shape. And 2, it's now easier to come in with this wet brush and help move that ink around so that we get that true watercolor look and not a stamped image. So I'm just going to continue to soften out that color so that we don't have any hard edges, and then I will move on to the next one. Now, if you go outside of the lines or you misshape this balloon a little bit, don't even worry about it. We'll fix that later when we come in and do our hand doodling. In fact, it'll add a little more interest if some of your balloons are a little oddly shaped. Once I've got the first layer down, I did hit it with my heat gun to dry it, and now I'm going to come in with my second color using the Twisted Citron, and I'm going to repeat the exact same steps as I did with the Spiced Marmalade. So you'll notice also that I've stamped each color in 3s and in a triangle formation, as always, because I'm a broken record. No, it's just going to help me keep balance throughout the entire arrangement here. Now, another thing that you can do, if you want to intensify some of that color or you're just not getting the blend that you want, you can squish your ink out onto a craft mat or a little palette and then pick the color up directly from there to add more. Again, this technique is extremely forgiving. So it's more about having fun with the texture that you add in, like by dropping in extra water to create blooms or by playing with your color palettes. Don't be afraid to overlap your balloons. You'll just want to make sure that each balloon is dry before you stamp over it. If you want your colors to bleed together, then by all means you can stamp over them while they're damp. However, do be aware that you could get unexpected blending if they are different wetnesses. So for example, if the balloon that you stamp over is only damp and the one that you stamp on top of that is really wet, it's going to cause a weird bloom. It's not going to blend or bleed the way you would think it would. So for this particular technique, I did dry the balloons in between. You'll also want to make sure that you're paying attention to which color balloons are overlapping. So for instance, orange and blue are opposites on the color wheel. So if I overlap those 2 balloons, I'm going to get a weird brownish color where they overlap. So again, just make sure that you're aware of which colors you're overlapping. So while that dries, I'm going to go ahead and prep up my sentiment, and for that I'm using our That Is All stamp set, and I'm going to be using this large brush script Amazing, and I'm going to heat emboss this in black onto a piece of vellum. I'm going to be doing some layering of the sentiments. So I love this set and I really love it used this particular way. You guys, I don't know if you've even seen me use it another way yet. I'm kind of stuck on it. So I'm going to stamp that, heat emboss it in black onto vellum, and then I'm going to just hand trim it out really quick, and I've got this piece all ready and all set and ready to go. But before I adhere anything, I want to add some texture to the background. So I'm going to add some water spots, some water marks, and then some splatters. I'm going to start by doing the water marks first, and I need to make sure that the ink is completely dry. And then I'm just going to take some not so clean water. Mine just happens to be dirty now. But you just need regular clear water, and you're just going to use your brush to flick water on. Now you can do it this way, or you can be more deliberate and actually touch the brush to the paper if you want to have control over where your water spots appear. I'm just flicking it on. And I'm going to let that set for a couple of seconds. If you want, you can actually tilt your paper a little bit from side to side to help loosen up that ink. And then I'm just going to use a paper towel to lift that water up. And you can see here when I lift the paper towel, there are now these lighter spots, almost bleached looking spots within the darker color. And you can repeat this as many times as you want until you get the results you want. And next it's time to add our splatters. I know, I need help. Is there an intervention for splatters? If there is, don't tell me because I don't want to go. So I'm squishing the ink onto a little palette here, using a wet brush to dilute it, and then flicking it onto my background here. I'm just going to add the colors around their respective balloons, and that'll do it. I'll allow that to dry, and now I can come in with a Sakura Pigma Micron archival pen, and this is a 03, and I'm going to add some hand doodling. This is where you can really give it all of its character. You do not want to completely outline each balloon. You want this to be a very loose, fluid motion. You want it to look carefree, hand sketched. So I'm going to concentrate on adding in the little balloon strings, the little ties in the strings, and then I'm just going to kind of not outline the outside of the balloon, but just on opposite edges, just create little half moons. And you can see I'm working very quickly. I'm trying not to overthink it because, again, I want to keep that very loose, sketchy feel. You can add this detail to as many or as few as you'd like. If you just wanted to, say, highlight a few in the front, you could just do those and leave the ones in the back very loose with no edging, no doodling. It's really up to you. this, like I said, is where you get to make it your own. And now we can just start assembling our card and putting all our pieces together. I've trimmed down the top panel to about 3 3/4 of an inch wide, just trimmed off that right side. And then I've die cut I Think You're, also from the That Is All stamp set, onto a banner die cut using our banner trio die. And I'm going to end up stacking these together just like this. Now I wanted to add a little extra punch. So the right side, I decided to add a little strip of glitter. I think this is just going to add a little bit more fun to this card. So I've taken another black panel and I'm going to trim this down to just under 4 inches wide. And then I'm going to use this double-sided adhesive. This is the Be Creative. Is it the Be Creative? It's the Terrific tape. That's what this one is. So it's a double-sided adhesive that is on a roll here, and you can just tear it with your fingers. I'm going to line that down the right side there, trim off the excess, and then remove the release paper. Now it's time to add that glitter. I'm going to use this crystal coarse glitter from Martha Stewart Crafts. I've laid down a scratch piece of paper to catch the excess glitter, and I'm just going to sprinkle that on and then burnish it in with my finger. Now since this is clear and chunky, there were some gaps left, and I thought a good way to fill in the space in between was then to add some of this super fine black glitter, also by Martha Stewart Crafts. So this just filled in any bare spots where you could still see that adhesive or that would still be sticky, and got in between all the little crevices of that chunky glitter. I then adhered the watercolor panel directly to this panel. And now it's time to add just a little bit more glitter to tie in that glitter background. So I'm using the clear glitter Wink of Stella pen here to add just a little bit of sparkle to the balloons themselves. I adhered that whole panel to the card base using some 3M foam tape. I trimmed down my banner and adhered that to the watercolor panel with tape runner. And now I'm going to adhere this amazing using some Cool Tack clear foam tape. This is perfect for using under vellum when you need a little dimension. Just beware, getting the release paper off the back of this stuff is a bear. Yeah, a bear. That's what I'm thinking. All right, so I'm going to just tear off this release tape, and then I'll use my EK Success craft tweezers to get it perfectly positioned and then just press it down. I finished it off with a couple of enamel dots from our Autumn Splendor collection, and that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'd love to see you guys add some of your own personal touches to your stamped images. It's just a great way to really personalize it and know that your card won't look just like anybody else's. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you enjoyed the technique. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you next time. Bye.